Hi, and welcome to FrazlCast. Climb aboard the GNOME train.
Chugga, 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 chugga.
Please make sure to keep your limbs and experimental instruments inside the train at all times. And now, on with the show.
A podcast by a Blizzard fan gnome about World of Warcraft and geeky stuff. I promise you, they do talk about the World of Warcraft. They just go off the rails sometimes.
I'm Frazly, and I am joined by a rockstar goddess, the podcasting inspiration, Thyst of Lagging Balls and BNN.
No pressure, right?
No pressure, no.
Thank you. That was very sweet. That was a good intro.
I could go like tonight, but that's Pat's, and I don't want to do the tonight.
No, you can absolutely steal that from Pat. There's nothing he can do about it.
Okay, well then tonight I'm gonna get to know this more. I've been following you since the days I started listening to WoW podcast. I had to be like 2016, and yeah, and then I just kept following you and stuff like that. And like you're always an inspiration to me. So I'm so freaking nervous and excited that you're here.
You don't have to be nervous. This is your show. You're in control.
Okay, but you're the one that when I was starting the show, I was watching back when it was the Lagging Ball stream, which is not the podcast, it's the stream.
Right.
I was watching that, and you're doing the whole thing about like the podcasting, and you're talking with podcasters about what they do. And because of that, I took some of those different ideas, and you encouraged me. I mean, like, because I was going to like, the editing is taking forever, and you said, editing takes forever. I'm like, thank you. I'm so glad to know that. So how did you get into gaming?
I don't remember a time when I wasn't. I was lucky enough to have like a really nerdy family, and my dad was really into technology early on, and he was working in tech, and he had like a work laptop that he brought home before we had a PC, and he would always get me like the CD-ROM, like Disney games and stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah, but he also got Warcraft 1, 2, and 3, so there was that. But, you know, he was always buying consoles, and my cousins would always, like, we always put video games first before, like, sports and stuff like that. So I was just really lucky to be surrounded by nerds from a very early age and, like, continuing throughout my life. So
yeah,
I guess that's it.
That's definitely helpful, because, like, my entry was my sisters. They were playing, like, I had one sister who I remember being that kid. She was buying the Legend of Zelda not Ocarina of Time, Link to the Past.
Right.
And I remember, like, my sister is so cool. I want to be like my sister. and my dad never did gaming because it was just a generation gap on that.
Sure. So
then from there, how did you get into World of Warcraft? That, Overwatch, Heroes, Hearthstone, like, those are your games.
Yes. Well, like I said, my dad was into Warcraft, and he let me play, thankfully. And I don't know. I started playing WoW the month after it came out. It was December. I got it for Christmas. I had to wait a whole month.
Yeah, me too.
It was hard.
Yes.
But I knew that I loved Warcraft from before. I was always really big into immersion before WoW came out, and just like everything you could read about it and see about it. It seemed impossibly cool and impossibly wonderful, and the idea of just disappearing into another world. And I think like the two things that got me were, one, you could be a Tauren, which I had to try, and two was you could literally go anywhere you wanted to, and I thought that concept was insane, so I had to try it. And you know, I used to be into a lot of video games, and then WoW came along, and I've only been pretty much into one game for the last 15 years. So
and still clobbering people in Overwatch. I was like, see, like, you're playing the games.
I'm pretty good at hamster, I will say that.
So you're like, I came in like a wreck. Well,
pretty much.
So what would you say is your play style in World of Warcraft?
Up until Legion, it was strictly PvE. When I started out, I wasn't actually good at World of Warcraft until Cataclysm, I think. I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't join a guild until 2009. I was kind of like a lone wolf. I had friends in the game, but I couldn't tell you what I was doing. But I managed to have fun basically ignoring endgame mechanics and every other mechanic and just like wandering around. I spent a lot of time as a BM hunter collecting like all of the like exclusive like ghost pets or whatever. I remember I got, what's that achievement for like going everywhere? The Explorer. I got the Explorer title before flying. Eventually I started raiding, and I met a lot of the people that I still raid with now. And through that, they taught me how to actually play WoW. And since I'd had like quite a few years under my belt already of just like messing around in game, I got pretty good at it pretty quick. And yeah, but then Legion came along and I started PvPing, and now I think it's like a healthy dose of both.
Yeah. And I always like your Twitters where you're like, look at me annihilating Alliance and PvP. I mean, you're the reason why I'm afraid to put on war mode.
Well, I would have to kill you.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I mean, that's how the game works.
Absolutely. It'd be an honor, though. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I would do it quickly. It wouldn't feel a thing.
And one thing that is really cool is the community that you've built and through Lagging Balls in the Discord. I mean, just today, looking in the support room and seeing all the people there who are going through, but there's a community there. How did you get into the podcasting?
I was a big fan of podcasts when they started to become a thing. Luckily, I was heavily into Kevin Smith, and he kind of started Smodcast like over a decade ago. He was one of the first really big podcasts, and I was listening to that a lot. And then, of course, The Instance and CTR came along, and Smodcast was sort of like a general interest show. But then I realized that I could start listening to podcasts about things that I like specifically. And the only thing that I really liked specifically was WoW. So those two shows were huge to me. Absolutely. Like I would not miss an episode ever. I went to college initially for radio broadcasting, and then because I wanted to be a musician. Those two things don't correlate, by the way. Those aren't the same thing. I figured that out pretty late. Then I finished college with a degree in theater. So I kind of had all the necessary tools, I guess, to start my own. And, you know, I had a friend in Thorn who wanted to do it as well. And we had a good rapport. We just started one. Like, I knew how to edit and he knew how to market stuff. And we both knew how to be idiots vocally. So that worked. And I don't know. I think looking back on LB and like back then, I think that we somehow had a lot of really good ideas. I don't know how, like, we don't usually have good ideas. We don't usually have any ideas. But back then, we must have been on a roll or something like that. Because, I don't know, I think we chose some of our ideals, like remaining Blizzard positive and remaining explicit, but only because that is who we are and that's the way we talk. And I think that appealed to a lot of people. So that's kind of how we started.
Explicit, except for the G-rated podcast of Lagging Balls.
Well, yeah. I mean, who saw that coming?
Yeah, I thought you were going to win, but when you lost...
Oh, no. I will never win a prediction show.
Me either.
I'm terrible at it. Oh, God.
I'm bad at lore as well, which...
Me too.
And what I understand is, like, Pat and Ro have been amazing friends too, and it's cool seeing your friendship with them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Ro, he's like the gatekeeper that says, come on into the Blizzard podcasting community. Like, once your show is featured on his show, you know that you're in, you know? And I think Ro took a shine to us early on, which was very lucky. He's been so generous. Like, he is just a generous person in general, but when he's your friend, he's always looking for ways to not only, you know, be your friend and be an awesome guy, but also to like give you every opportunity in the world to succeed. Which I really appreciated. And with Pat, like the first time I met Pat was the first BlizzCon I ever went to, and he was standing behind a table and he had flyers for the CTR party, and he's like, hey, you want to come? And my butt was shaking. Like, I was like, you know, like I met Scott Johnson that night too. Like those,
wow.
like those guys, you know, like, cause like I said, I'd been listening to The Instance and CTR for years, and they were my inspiration and kind of like heroic figures in my life. And then a year after that, Pat invited me to be on CTR. And then after that, he's like, you can keep coming on CTR. And I said, okay. And yeah, and he just kind of turned into my best friend. So there's never a day that goes by that I don't wake up and realize how surreal my life is, like being friends with my heroes. So I'm never taking that for granted.
And that's what I've always thought was cool, is like you're living the life that I dream of. I mean, just like, again, seeing you talk with Thorn, seeing you talk with Pat, just that friendship, and you're geeking out over something that you enjoy. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is totally possible in this community. Like, all you have to remember is to be nice and to reach out, you know, like make yourself available. And I think the nature of the WoW community in general is that we're all playing this game for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is WoW is an outlet for being social and meeting people and forming relationships. And that is no different in the podcasting section of it, you know? And as long as you come in and you're open and you're nice and polite and you don't burn any bridges and you accept people as they are, you can be friends with anybody, anyone.
Yeah.
Anybody, like game devs, other podcasters. Pat loves friends. He can't get enough. Like, he loves when people slide into his DMs, especially when there's pictures involved.
I think I sent a picture of mixtures, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
He's really got the Heil PR40. I was like, oh, I wanted the mic that Pat uses. So you were just in Australia. Mm-hmm. So how did you get all the way across the world to be reporting in the MDI?
How? Well, an airplane helped a lot. They were looking to add sideline reporters to the AWC and the MDI this year for the first time. The AWC got Aya. She's she's a stats analyst. She actually works behind the scenes on all of the World of Warcraft esports. And so naturally she was, the best choice for AWC. And luckily for me, that happened like first, so I could see kind of what I would be doing. But I got asked to audition in March. I think I didn't hear anything for about a month, so I just kind of assumed it wasn't going to happen. And then in April, I heard back saying that I got the position. I kind of got it through, just everything that I've been doing, but also I had some really great recommendations from some friends, one in particular who works at MLG. And then after that, when I got the job, they're like, yeah, you got the job. And I'm like, awesome. I'm freaking out. Like, it's my dream come true. But I'm assuming that it's going to be in Columbus, Ohio, like it always is. But then,
hometown.
Yeah. But as an aside, they're like, oh yeah, it's also in Australia. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay, let's do that then. Let's go there. So they took me there. It's just one of those things that, like, it's happening to you and you're like, this is happening. Like, every little bit of it is completely unbelievable and you're just living it, and you just have to do your best and try to enjoy it and remain, sort of like humble about everything. And it was a huge privilege not only to like go and visit Australia, but to work for Blizzard and to work with the people that I did, like everyone at Blizzard and Global Cooldown TV and ESL Australia. It was a dream come true, and everybody was amazing, fantastic. I loved it.
It probably felt like a dream.
It was. It is my dream. I started podcasting about Blizzard 4 years ago, hoping, because like every so often a Blizzard community person breaks through, like most famously I can think of Randy Deluxe. He used to be on the Instance. Now he's one of my BFFs, but he's been working for Blizz for a really long time. Rob Wing, I think he came from a Hearthstone podcast and he worked for Blizzard for a while. He was also on the MDI. I wouldn't recommend like doing Blizzard content with the intention of like working for Blizzard. Like, I've applied to Blizzard so many times, and it's not as simple as, oh, I've been doing a podcast about your content for a long time. It's not that. It's, you really have to get out there and experience things. And I only figured that out 2 years ago when I decided to sort of let go of a lot of the reins on all of my content and my projects and the things that I was doing, and like go out into the real world, get an internship somewhere in the gaming industry, and then get a gaming industry job and sort of beef up my profile and like all of my experience and my resume like that. Don't start a podcast thinking you're going to get hired by Blizz, because it's not that simple. You should do it and then do other stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and go back to what you said earlier about honesty. If you're doing a podcast for fame or something like that, it will come through.
Yes. And honestly, like if you're looking for fame, podcasting is not the route.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's like the worst idea.
I would say it's the most fun because I've gotten to sit down with so many awesome people and meet with people. But yeah, it's not for fame.
No, it's a very meaningful media. Like, you get to, like you said, talk to a lot of people because it's lower pressure, like people can sit here and do this. Sometimes they're not even on camera at all, and it's fine. It's definitely not flashy enough to be like a big fame maker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of it, of going to other places, one thing that you've now work at is Next Level.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get started working for Next Level?
So Next Level is a gaming and esports updates show on Snapchat and Instagram television. That came about after I'd started working with Imagine Media for a couple months. I was working on the Snapchat vertical called Try Hard, which is like daily editions of memes and news within like the gaming and esports sphere, if you will. It's a big startup company, so they wanted to kind of branch out into more entertainment stuff. And so my coworker and I started working on Next Level, which is thrice weekly. You can find it on Snapchat and Instagram television. And it's basically just, like 3 hosts in general, usually just 2 per episode. And we take turns just, delivering news really quickly on camera, inserting memes because, that's kind of our brand. Just trying to have fun with delivering the news. And it's especially fun for me because I get all the Blizzard news because, I called dibs early on. It's really cool having a job that gives me a lot of resources. I have this like Snapchat channel to look after, and I've got this show to help out with. And we're also co-creating another show with Golden Boy called Level Up with another company. And we've got this huge Instagram page and this huge Twitter page, and we've got a lot of really cool industry people in our corner. And I feel really lucky to be in that position because Imagine's really trusting me and my coworkers with, a lot of really huge things. And they're giving us a lot of really cool projects to work on. And Next Level is one of them. And I love doing it. It was crazy. When I got the job, I had no idea I'd be on camera at all. And now I'm on 3 times a week. So,
and you are also going to events. It's like, not only were you at MDI, then you were also at E3.
Yeah, that was not the best idea I've ever had. Flying from Australia right to LA and then the next day going to E3. I tried to go in not being like super Blizz bias because we all know that BlizzCon is the best convention ever. And we all know that it's completely incomparable for a lot of reasons. But E3 this year, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, wasn't exceptional, I guess. Like, it was still fun. It was, a lot of things were very incredible. Like, a lot of the attractions and the booths and the things you could try out were really cool, but it was very small. And a lot of it seemed to favor industry people rather than the fans, which was fine because the fans had a lot to do, and most of what they had to do was to line up and wait for things to do. I only lined up to play Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat 11 just because I love Shang Tsung, and he has this really cool fatality where he like throws Prince Goro's soul into the opponent, and then Prince Goro like breaks out of that body and like rips the chest open, and then he's like, Prince Goro.
That is awesome.
It really was. And the Shang Tsung like in Mortal Kombat 11 looks like the actor who played Shang Tsung in the 90s movies. So it was awesome. But I only had to work one day. The other days I was just chilling. We had an unveiling, if you will, of Level Up, and Golden Boy was there to sort of talk about it. And it was really cool to just like premiere something that we'd been working on for so long.
And to see like the audience react to it. I got to see them live.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So what would you say is advice you would give to someone who wants to go into your career?
Okay, this is what I've learned. So like I said, I've got a degree in radio and theater. That does not equate gaming industry. Okay? That doesn't. Don't try that. Don't try that at home. So for the longest time, I was just doing my own content, just doing Lagging Balls, streaming occasionally. That's it. I didn't know any better, so I had all these like lofty dreams and goals, just like, if I keep doing this show and it's really good and like people like it, and to be fair, like in Lagging Balls' second year, like it really took off. We've got quite a large listener base at this point, but that doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. It means you have a great podcast, but it doesn't mean that, that's going to translate to you can work in the gaming industry. So after 2 or 3 years of me, trying to get into Blizz and trying to apply for jobs that were kind of like Blizzard jobs, I realized that although I felt like I had all of this experience, and I knew that I was good at working hard and that I was passionate about games, I realized that I didn't have all of the necessary like IRL experience that, you know, a lot of employers are looking for. So I kind of swallowed my pride a little bit and, you know, took an intern job, which was at Double Tap, which is sort of like a game and esports news media website. And I worked there for a year, and I learned so much. I learned things that I didn't know I knew that I could know. I learned what it's like to actually work in the gaming industry. I learned that, you know, it's not all fun all the time. I learned that when you work in the gaming industry, you probably don't have a lot of time to play video games, which is very frustrating, especially if you're writing about updates as they're happening while you're sitting in the office and everybody else is playing and you're just like, what am I doing here? But yeah, so on top of that, so I'm working as an intern. I'm still doing LB. I'm doing CTR. I'm saying yes to every single show that asks me to be on it because you never know who's watching. LB blew up a lot in part to me just randomly being on World of Warcast one day. Who knew? I mean, it was the first WoW podcast, but we didn't know that it had such like a huge following, and that really helped out. So just saying yes to everything, being really open to everyone, and just, you know, working as much as you can. And like, you know, people are asking me to do projects with them and I'm saying yes. Sometimes it's not even about gaming, but I'm still saying yes anyway. And I'm hustling in my day job, and I'm hustling with all of my other stuff. And so when I've stopped being an intern, I had actual IRL experience on top of like the 3 years of, you know, stuff that I've done. That did the trick. Like I actually got an actual real gaming industry job. I think my advice would be hustle until it's uncomfortable, you know, like hustle as much as you possibly can. It'll affect your life. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot of stuff. You're going to have to sacrifice the friendships, and you're definitely going to have to sacrifice all of the time that you're playing video games, because you're probably playing a lot if you want to get into the industry. But you have to realize that, like, even though you're trying to work in an industry that is centered around having fun and recreation, it's when you're working in it, it's not about that at all. It's you're working harder than you've ever thought. So just, you know, if you're trying to get into the industry, look at what you are doing, try to figure out what you could be doing.
And I like what you talked about, the thing about like before you're getting into content creation, I thought that creators had all this time that they just, they just whipped out a video here, whipped out all this stuff there. And no, and what you're saying is that it takes a lot more and you have to keep working at it.
Absolutely. And something that I struggle with and have been struggling with is like, if you're your own creator, but also trying to get like an actual IRL job, there comes a point where you can't do both. You don't have time. For me, it was a struggle, especially when I was just an intern, because I knew that if I actually got a job with that company or somewhere else, I knew that a lot of my content would suffer because it was already starting to suffer. And I'm thinking, you know what? I could just quit this intern job and I could just like double down with my podcasts, you know, start streaming all of the time, make vlogs and stuff, and try to achieve my goals only through my own means. But then on the other hand, it's like I could give up some of my content, like let go of the reins a little bit, stop saying yes to everything, and double down on my actual IRL job and try to get a job in the industry that way. And it's tough because you look at the industry and it almost seems like a lot of the people are 50-50. It's like this girl, you know, she's sponsored by G Fuel and she's working for Razer and blah, 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 only because she was a really popular streamer. But then this guy, it's like he went to school for game design and, you know, he worked his ass off and now he's at Blizzard and he's a developer. But then there's another developer working next to him that got the developer job because he was a streamer. You know, it's like there's two avenues to go down. And sometimes, I don't know, I found myself in the middle. What I did was chose neither, but also both. And I don't recommend that. It's really hard. And I needed a lot of help. Luckily, I had Thorn with LB. Luckily, you know, I'm on CTR all the time, but, you know, Pat's still very much in charge of all of that. And, you know, we got a TNA, an assistant to help out, and a committee. And so that's why all that came about. Like, it used to be just me editing, but I had to sort of trust other people to do that for me. And it was very difficult.
So would you say at a certain point, if you need to delegating?
Yes, delegation helps a lot. I realized that I was in a lucky position with that. Like the whole time we've been doing LB, we've had people offering to help with it just because everybody who listens to LB is like really nice, thankfully. But also, I had a lot of friends that were helping me already, and it's not always feasible to delegate your own stuff. So you kind of just have to try both avenues if you can, figure out which one works better for you. And my advice would be to pick one, not do what I did, because I know that I made it a lot harder on myself.
Wow. That is solid advice. I echo what Thorne in the chat said.
I don't know if there's wisdom, I guess, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You've done a lot of stuff, and that's what's awesome. One thing I wanted to ask before we end the show, it's amazing that I've been waiting for this, and now the time flies by. I mean, that's the thing about recording.
It really does.
So you've always been someone to me that doesn't let the world crap on you, or doesn't let the world on you. I mean, you take the reins and do your thing. And then also when you need to, you let the reins go to the people that can help you achieve what you're going for. And you do it so amazingly well. Seeing you on the MDI streams just made me cheer so much that my friend was there. Someone that I know, someone that I've interacted with in Discord, and like, they were there. I have a friendship connection with you, and that made it so cool. So one thing I have to ask you, how do you overcome that voice in your head that probably is nagging at you some days, but how do you overcome that voice to do what you do?
I don't know. I think I'm lucky enough to have issues outside of my work. I mean, that sounds weird. Okay, what I mean is, I think I've just been learning how to do things for myself and make things happen career-wise and content-wise, which I guess is also career. I've been learning how to do that over 4 years. Before I started LB, I had clinical depression. I had no aspirations. I had always like dabbled in a lot of things. Like I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a therapist. But again, like I had a theater degree and I didn't want to do theater. So I had like a bunch of retail jobs, and, of course there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just trying to convey that I had no direction. Absolutely none. I knew that I wanted to do something creative, but I had never been that good at anything creative. Like, I'm good at drawing and I'm good at playing music, but not good enough to make it a career. It was difficult. And I sort of just didn't have any direction. And I worked from home for a very long time. That didn't help with the depression thing. And I'm the sort of person who falls into a routine of like being comfortable and lazy very easily. And so I did so. And that was okay. Like I would just spend all day not going anywhere, not talking to anybody. And I was perfectly okay with that at the time. And I did that for many, many years. And that's why I was so good at WoW. But when I started LB, it always grew. Like LB never stopped growing, and it's still growing, even though we're taking a little hiatus right now. But it was a slow go. And I think as the podcast grew, so did I. And I kept seeing things happen. And it took a very long time for me to correlate my hard work and passion for what I was doing with the success that I was achieving, because I wasn't used to doing things that were successful. Like to me, like a goal would be to get all my dailies done or actually go to the store or do laundry that day. But now, my goal was to, break 1,000 listeners, or start up this project that I had in mind, or get to the 100th episode of LB or something. And, with that slow progression, cool things were happening, but then spectacular things were happening. Like I was meeting Pat Crane and he was inviting me on CTR. I was on Warcast. I was doing Calm Before the Storm. I was on panels. I started getting invited to things. I started getting to do meet and greets. Everybody in the Discord started showing up, and, all just amazing things started happening to me every day. And I don't know, I think the slow build with all of the hard work that I was putting in, and then the slow like reward thing, just like happening consistently, I kind of learned through doing how I was doing it, if that makes sense. Because I know this doesn't make any sense, but it's just like I went into this not knowing what I was doing. And then after I was doing it for a long time, then I realized what I was doing. And then I learned how to do it on purpose, I guess. Anyway, it's hard to explain. So now with moving forward in my career and stuff like that, and even, you know, as scary as the MDI certainly was, because, you know, I've never done anything like that before, I knew that I would be able to learn how to do it and learn how to not be afraid of it. And so when you get those initial fears, you learn that it's yet another process to go through. It's like, I'm starting something new. I'm nervous for whatever reason. Like, people might say shit about me, or I might not know how to do something, or I might suck at something. Don't try to avoid it. Just take it. You know, it's like, yes, I am scared, but I'm going to learn how to not be scared once I know how to do this better. And so I think that's how I do that. You just kind of have to learn how to go through the motions, I guess. Now, in every other aspect of my life, that's a complete failure. That's terrible. It's awful. So, like, you know, like looking at this, it's like, yeah, this does some cool stuff. But, you know, otherwise, I'm, you know, just like lounging around with stains on my t-shirt, not doing laundry and tripping, you know, so it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's a yin and yang to this, you know?
Yeah. You got to have your unbalanced side to your balanced side. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all this. It really does speak to me, because like I said, I want to be where you are at with the career, and I like in what you're doing. It's inspiring to hear what you've said this episode.
Well, I'm proud of you, Frazly, because you have so many projects and you have so many friends because of that. Like, you keep pumping out the content, and that's exactly what you have to do if you want to be a successful content creator. Like, people think that they have to spend hours and hours and hours on one project and then release it. And like, yeah, that works too. It's a little slow going, but you went for it from day one. Like, you made sure that everybody knew who you were. Everybody liked you immediately because you're a nice person and you're always projecting positivity. That's what people like. A lot of us in the WoW community are very depressed and very lonely. And someone like you in the community is welcome. People always know that you're never going to turn them away. You're always going to be there to listen to what they have to say. And you're always 100% you. And people really respond to that. And I've been so proud to watch you grow all of these years. And I'm so proud to have you in our Discord, because you're a ray of freaking sunshine every single day. And you are already on your way. Like, you are already doing exactly what you need to do to succeed. And I'm so proud to see it. And I'm so happy for you. And like, you definitely, like, if anybody's going to make it, it's you, because you have the knack, but you're also not a jerk, you know?
Wow, I did not expect that. Wow.
Sorry.
No. That means a lot. I've shared a few times, as you say, that the niceness comes because I had a friend who was in a very depressed state when I was a teen, and I wish I had been there for him. So that's where I've tried to be there for everybody there, because our world's full of people that are not at their best place, and I'm like, well, I want to do whatever I can to make their day better.
Absolutely, but don't you see that, like, most people wouldn't take that lesson from having a depressed friend. Most people would be like, "Oh, depression sucks. Oh well," you know. But you had a friend that was depressed, and you wish that you helped out more, and so you were actively doing something. You're learning from that. And that, that's the mark of a good person. Like, you're thinking of others before yourself. So that's a huge factor. And on top of that, you're kicking ass, like putting out content show after show. And I don't know, I've loved to see you grow. It's been really nice. And I'm so thankful that you had me on the show, because I love this show and it's really cool to be here.
Thank you. And it's weird that this episode's like over, because it's like I've been like so hyped for the longest time, because you're one of the ones like, I have to get this, I have to get these people on the show, and next week I've got Pat Crane on.
I know, we were talking about that actually.
What? Oh wow!
Yeah,
wow.
We were both very excited that we got invited.
Because wow.
Would you have us both on at the same time someday?
Absolutely.
I would love that. We could gang up on Pat. I love ganging up on Pat.
That is going down in the top of the show notes.
Good.
Distant Pat. So until that happens, though, if people want to get more of this, and I hope everybody wants to get more of this, where can we find you?
I think the easiest place to find me is on Twitter. It's Thyst03. You can find me pretty much anywhere at that, or laggingballs.com has everything you'll need to know.
Do you have any Alliance tunes?
No.
Okay.
No, that's actually not true. I do have an Alliance tune. It's a level 1 Warlock, I think, and it's on Moonguard, because sometimes my friends and I like to go to Goldshire and just kick it a little bit. It gets weird.
So what if we were to level that Warlock to like level 120?
No, that's
Okay.
gross.
Well,
I'm sorry. I just you're asking too much of me at this point.
Okay. Well I can do an Iron Tune. Have you seen the Iron Man challenges?
Yes, I have. Or you could just, go Horde. We could level something Horde.
Okay, that sounds good. So I'll meet you over in Orgrimmar.
Yeah, obviously that's the better choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't say that. No.
Activating customized Orca transporter.
Well, I'm over in Orgrimmar to level with Thyst. Don't worry, Michael. Genome Project will still continue. But before I go out and level, it's time for something.
Let's look at what has been happening in the community.
Awesome. Let's do that. So Calm Before the Storm closed with over $45,000 in funding. But now it's time to assist Bell of PwnCast with helping make DitchCon be a reality. DitchCon 2019 Villains Ball has Who Doesn't Love Being Evil. This will be on October 30th. So they are looking for $14,000 by July 15th through Kickstarter. The description is, PwnCast is throwing our 4th annual pre-BlizzCon party in celebration of being ditched at the con. We have all been there. Your friends are there 1 minute and then gone the next. It is simply the nature of BlizzCon. To celebrate and acknowledge this, every year we bring everyone together in a ditch-free zone. Tired of not getting into any VIP/invite-only parties? Us too. We invite you to party like Vikings with zero regrets in the morning. This year we decided if you can't beat them, be them. Unleash your inner villain and enter our lair of evil masterminds, music, alcohol, and nerds, where for this one night, it's good to be bad. Of course, we can't do this without nerds like you. The party is and always will remain free for everyone, but we do rely on our awesome supporters in this community to help make this party happen every year. So this party will be live streamed on Twitch. I hope to attend virtually. I backed them as they did last year. Bell works their butt off every year to produce an awesome party that I will one day attend in person. And Baron's Chat is a discussion forum and fan site for classic players, and they have some really cool guides. And one is by Minoru, and it is a dungeon lore compendium. They have a clickable guide of all the storyline and lore for every instance in Classic. Definitely check it out. Icy Veins brought to my attention a really cool bit of machinima by Cambrio Machinima. I'm a sucker for these type of things. I pine for the days of illegal Danish and red snapper. So this one is made in Unreal Engine 4 using WoW assets. It's really cool. It's called Hunters. The wandering hunter Declan stops for the night in an abandoned tavern in Hillsbrad Foothills and meets a mysterious stranger there. And they even have a video showing the behind the scenes of the machinima, and it is portrayed as if it is in their world. And Patty Matson, who is the voice of Sylvanas, has released a version of Lament of the Highborn on her birthday nonetheless. Happy birthday, Patty! With her singing the vocals. Amazingly well done. I mean, I like Sylvanas as a character. I mean, the character is well done, but I as the player want Sylvanas dead. But I admit, Patty brings so much life to the writings of Sylvanas. One of my favorite WoW characters to hate. Do you live and or play WoW in Europe? Are you going to be playing WoW Classic in Europe? Blizzard has released their plans for what they are doing with the realms for that region. So they say that they've prepared several realms, which will include player versus player versus environment, and role-playing realms. I don't see PvP RP there, but we will find out as we get closer to launch. And for Classic, they are planning on not splitting up the realms by language. They say that this has its advantages and disadvantages, but overall, they think it's the best starting point for WoW Classic. An exception will be made for the Russian language, which will have separate realms due to its reliance on the Cyrillic alphabet. For technical reasons, this will also mean Russian is going to have its own separate game client, similar to what happened in the Burning Crusade. And Wowhead has unveiled a new layout for their guides, which I use a lot. And they're getting ready for 8.2 Rise of Ashara, which launches Tuesday or Wednesday if you're in the EU, and for Classic. So these look really cool, and Wowhead, they keep kicking butt with all of their awesome things. One of my most used WoW sites. And before we finish off the From the Community section, I want to remind you all that there are 2 awesome things happening to raise money for the Trevor Project, which is the world's largest suicide prevention and crisis intervention organization for LGBTQ young people. The Pride pin with the Blizzard Entertainment and Rainbow is on sale in the gear store. The pin is $15 and proceeds through July 31st go to the Trevor Project. And coming up this Saturday, the Running of the Trolls will be taking place at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Feather Moon US. The goal is to bring awareness and raise money for the Trevor Project. The goal for this year is $3,000. Well, this has been another packed episode of FrazlCast. Getting to speak with one of my role models in WoW was so nerve-wracking, exciting, anxiety-inducing, and everything in between. Thank you, Thyst. You are awesome. And I got some great news. So FrazlCast is once again working on iHeartRadio. There was some gnome tinkering done in May that kind of broke the feed after Fingaro's episode. I mean, don't blame him. It was just I tinkering with the episode and all the text behind the scenes. There's a lot that goes on with podcasting. But as of Friday morning, it is now working again. I will check the Monday that this releases, but we should be good to go because I know I've got some iHeartRadio listeners out there. Hello! That's actually how I found Metal X Pearl. In every episode, I like to thank those people who have helped support this show financially. Starting off with the Twitch subs. Thank you to Michael the Blue Recluse and Nerd This Podcast and the Genome Project. Thank you to Dusty Porter of Nerd This, YouTube Creators Hub Podcast, and the Dusty Porter Streams. Thank you to Resurus. Thank you to T Crunk 360. Thank you to Thorn of Lagging Balls and BNN. Thank you to Vilicia. And thank you to Zortz the Goblin, who is of WoW Challenges, which, by the way, I was on WoW Challenges. I will be talking about that next week because I'm recording this before tomorrow. By the time you hear this, I will already have been on it. But yeah, you get the picture. And thank you to Polly and Resurus for the bits this week. If you want to support the show with a bit, tip, sub, or shirt, please go to support.gnomepodcast.com. All of these bits, tips, subs, and shirts go to help supporting this labor of love. And there's a cool thing I'll be doing for FrazlCast. I will be posting the link to the episode MP3s in the Twitch subscribers Discord channels on the Sparkspans and DPS Discord. I release this on Monday to keep consistent. In some weeks, I am to the wire on releasing it. But if I get done early, I will put the link to the episode MP3 in there. The Twitch VODs will be staying free. I am not going to put them behind a paywall like I first did when I became an affiliate. This early episode release is just a small perk for those who subscribe. You will still get this show free every single week. Well, I'm Frazly, and you can find the show at gnomepodcast.com. So until next week, be awesome.
Attention. Have you or someone you love become tired of listening to the same old World of Warcraft podcasts? Have you converted one too many weekly instances into lagging roundtables? Then come on down and listen to the only show for the everyday World of Warcraft player, the Unshackled Fury podcast. With insider analysis from 2 players who've seen it all and probably taken one too many shots to the head, the Unshackled Fury podcast covers all the news and notes you need to know in and out of the world of Azeroth. So come download the show now on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play today.
The Unshackled Fury podcast contains strong language, and listeners of the show must be accompanied by an adult at all times. Listen responsibly.
Welcome to the Frazzle Report, a short podcast by me, the Awesome Gnome, about the World of Warcraft. So the Midfire Festival starts this Friday. Across Azeroth and Outland, brilliant fires have been lit to rekindle people's spirits and ward off ancient evils. Each year, new guardians are chosen to watch over the sacred flames and ensure that they are never extinguished. Last year's sad torching of Darnassus by Sylvanas thankfully had nothing to do with the Fire Festival. Cities across Azeroth are still on high alert, though. Sylvanas has been banned from participating in any of the festivities. And they've also been given a restraining order by the Sentinels from approaching any world tree. And the Sentinels are going to be on watch 24/7 until the end of the festival. It only takes a spark to get a fire going, and soon all those around will burn up in the glow. Please be careful with fire while participating in this event. And this year, there are now bonfires in Kul Tiras and Zandalar, and they've also added a Fire Eater's Hearthstone toy. And 8.2 is starting to heat up even more, so BFA Season 2 is ending soon. And a season is PvP, dungeons, Mythic Plus, and different things. The end of one of these seasons usually means that a patch is imminent. Well, Wowhead mentions that the first release candidate build of 8.2 has hit PTR on June 14th. So 8.2 could be this week, though highly unlikely. It's probably going to be next week or the week after. I hope it's not the week after because I won't have Wi-Fi. but we haven't even gotten the patch download yet in the background downloader. Though who knows, by the time you hear this report, it may have made it to the downloader, which would explain why you're getting that lag all of a sudden in that group. So you know what, that wipe in that raid and all that, just blame it on the downloader. And Wowhead has uncovered a change that if you group with someone who has turned off gaining XP, your experience will be reduced by 95% when you are within 200 yards of that player. This is going to cause LFGs, islands, warfronts, and others to become very big places for trolling. This was apparently to stop twink leveling where someone at 110 is able to help boost someone from 110 to 120 in a short period of time. Though this change is kind of worrying. Hopefully we get clarification soon. Now, in a non-worrying change, Volpira have shown up as an allied race and some code used for bringing your player character into cutscenes. This could be old code or something that is portending us finally getting these cute and lovable people as a playable race. I am so excited and I hope that this becomes a reality. You know, you're a cute little heartbreaker. Ha, Volpira. I want to take you home. Ha ha, yeah. You gotta be mine, all mine. Ooh, Volpira. Ooh, I've made up my mind. Yeah, I'm tired of wasting all my precious time. And before we end today's broadcast, some people have received an email with a survey that asks about their reaction to an upcoming level squish. The wording of this is as if it has been determined to happen. We have had no official confirmation other than various statements in the past that it is an idea that the devs are thinking about. Either the news went over my head or it is happening and they want the initial reaction first. Well, the XP nerf and the Volpira have definitely started fires of discussion across the internet. Hold on, something is coming across as I'm recording this. Okay, so Blizzard just clarified that the XP nerf will only apply when you manually invite players. LFG, PvP, and LFR will still be normal. This will still make Group Finder for invasions and assault quests very frustrating. Hopefully those get exempted before 8.2 launches or get added as a hotfix. Well, as we end this report, I wish to remind all listeners, we didn't start the fire. We tried to fight it, but we didn't ignite it. Sylvanas did. So until next time, be awesome. FrazlCast is a fan podcast that covers Blizzard games. We are not affiliated with Blizzard Entertainment, Inc. Views expressed by the host and guests are their own. Some of the art, music, and sound effects come from Blizzard games and are owned by Blizzard Entertainment, Inc. No copyright infringement is intended.
This show is brought to you by Dragon Powered Studio. Find more at dragonpoweredstudio.com.